Every day, something dramatic happens in the Caribbean that affects our lives. We'll give you the details. We'll give you the facts on Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick. Here's Eddie Frederick.
So glad you can join us. The United States Secretary of State's visit can reposition Guyana strongly on the map. This story takes the lead in our 951st edition of Caribbean Perspective for Monday 28th September 2020. Details after this important message.
The hurricane season is now upon us, so we as Caribbean people need to remember to think safety and be prepared. Avoid venturing outside during a storm or hurricane, especially if there are strong winds. Rooftops and other debris are often blown about and can cause great damage.
Welcome back. Guyana's President Irfan Ali, during an interview with the Miami Caribbean Times, recently said that the U.S. Secretary of State's visit to Guyana could make the country more recognizable and increase investment opportunities with potential investors. The details in this report from Wendell Badri of HGP Nightly News.
President Irfan Ali, during the interview, posited that U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo's visit to Guyana could open avenues for the country. Further, the president posited that visibility allows the association of Guyana at the international level and brings that interest, referring to potential investors to these shores. The president, while meeting with the Secretary of State of the U.S. on Friday last, also inked an agreement through the Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Hugh Todd, which is dubbed the Growth of the Americas Initiative, and it seeks to foster closer relations between the two countries' private sectors. Speaking at the joint press conference on Friday last, the Secretary of State posited that the initiative would benefit Guyana and the U.S. alike.
Sometimes I hear, we don't want foreign direct investment, we're concerned about our sovereignty. I would posit this for everyone watching today. The United States model is to build out on the best things of your country. We'll show up, we'll bring capital, we'll bring resources, we'll often bring technological capabilities that are much needed to develop resources, develop infrastructure for your country, but we don't do so with political strings tied to them. We don't operate the way other regimes do.
Meanwhile, President Ali, during the press briefing, spoke to the initiative and how it stands to benefit both countries.
This agreement will stimulate the enhancement of the business environment for U.S. private sector investment in Guyana, particularly in the fields of energy, both non-renewable and renewables, and infrastructure.
Mike Pompeo, the United States Secretary of State, who is fourth in line to the presidency of the United States, became the first highest-ranking official from the United States to visit these shores. His visit came at a time when Guyana commenced oil production in the Stabroek Block, offshore Guyana, and while the country is forecast to become the fastest-growing economy in the Caribbean region and possibly the world over the next few years. The country is being hailed as the next Dubai of the region. Wendell Badri for the HGP Nightly News.
U.S. indicts man for trafficking guns to St. Lucia. Colby DeVoe of HTS News Force reports.
Local law enforcement officials have long stated that illegal firearms are entering the island through legitimate ports of entry. Just last week, Acting Commissioner of Police with Responsibility for Crime Management, George Nicholas, again acknowledged the problem of guns in shipping barrels destined to St. Lucia.
We know for a fact that firearms come into the country through the legitimate ports of entry. We have cases where they came in through the barrels. And as far as I am aware, I don't think that anything has been done to sort of put more stringent measures on the examination of those barrels. A simple thing like an X-ray machine or a scanning machine to scan those barrels, I'm sure, would be able to discover some of the illegal items in those barrels.
Now comes word in a release from the United States Attorney's Office for the Eastern District of Philadelphia of the indictment of a Bucks County, Pennsylvania man for illicit firearms trafficking to St. Lucia. According to the release, 27-year-old Thomas Harris Jr. was arrested and charged by indictment with multiple firearms trafficking offenses to sell almost 40 guns to a buyer in St. Lucia. The indictment alleges that Harris purchased approximately 38 firearms in 12 transactions at 2 gun shops between April 20th, 2019 and February 15th, 2020. He also allegedly illegally trafficked and attempted to traffic the guns to St. Lucia despite not having a license to deal nor export firearms. The U.S. Attorney's Office reveals that one of Harris's suspected packages was intercepted at the warehouse of a local shipping company. U.S. federal agents reportedly found concealed in household items 7 Glock semi-automatic pistols, 1 Ruger semi-automatic pistol, 2 AK-47 pattern pistols, 2 AK-47 pattern rifles, 2 AR-15 lower receivers, 2 AR-15 upper receivers, 10 high-capacity Glock ammunition magazines, 7 additional assorted ammunition magazines, and 815 rounds of ammunition. Harris allegedly used the alias Lance Brown for the shipment to St. Lucia, allegedly falsely claiming to a shipping company that the package contained household items. According to U.S. authorities, the defendant traveled to St. Lucia in March 2020, where he remained until returning to the United States on July 25, 2020, when he was arrested at an airport in New York. St. Lucia has been grappling with a rise in gun-related crime, including a slew of fatal shootings. Local police have launched a crackdown on illicit guns, recovering hundreds of firearms in various operations throughout the island. The Star, Colby DeVoe, HTS News Force.
Meantime, the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, the ECCB, and the ECCU Bankers Association says they have revised the COVID-19 pandemic support program to help reduce the anxiety of customers and residents over the loss of income due to the pandemic. HTS's Stanley Lucian reports.
With the clock ticking towards the September 30th end of the moratorium on loan payments, anxiety among debtors across the region was understandably high. But a joint missive Thursday from the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank and the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union Bankers Association may have allayed anxiety across the member states of the currency union. The two organizations, the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank and the ECCU Bankers Association, note that despite the phased reopening of most of the member nations of the currency union, businesses and individuals across the region continue to experience the negative impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. Simply, the ECCB and the ECCU Bankers Association are saying that the conditions which led to them granting in the first place the moratorium on payment of loans in March have not improved. The release from the financial organizations notes, quote, going forward, the loan repayment deferral program moratorium will be based on an assessment of the financial condition of customers. In their sole discretion, banks in the ECCU region will consider extension requests up to a maximum period of 12 months from the 1st of October 2020. End of quote. Additionally, customers who qualify will be given a waiver on late fees and charges. The banks are expected to discuss the details of the process with their customers. The relief package of the deferment of loan payment and the waiver of late fees will be granted on a case-by-case basis and may be brought to an end if the customer's circumstances are believed to have changed for the better. Stanley Lucian for the HTS News Force.
You're listening to Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick.
Entertainer Vybz Kartel and his co-accused have been granted conditional leave by Jamaica's appeals court to take their appeal to London's Privy Council. More in this TVJ News item with Herman Green.
Attorney Bert Samuels, who was speaking with TVJ's Prince Moore via telephone a short while ago, says the defense is happy with the decision.
The team of Sean Campbell and Adija Palmer and the others are very elated because we have been granted conditional leave to appeal to the decision of the Court of Appeal to the Privy Council. We've been happy that there are some jury grounds which have gone and some admission of evidence grounds which have been permitted to go to the Privy Council. The Court of Appeal has seen it necessary that those grounds need to be resolved by another court. So it's a very good day for us, and we're looking forward to victory in the Privy Council.
How soon do you expect the matter to go to the Privy Council?
Well, we have a month within which we must prepare the papers and have them onto the bundles and send them onto the Privy Council. We're looking for, if it is expedited, a Christmas decision.
Still on Jamaica, the government there have been spending big in the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic.
The Ministry of Health and Wellness is reporting that it has spent $4 billion in the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic. Speaking at a media briefing on Thursday, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry, Dunstan Brand, said the money was spent between April and September. Mr. Brand said 40% of the $4 billion was spent in June and July to fulfill commitments made in March and April.
Our commitments to equipment, our commitment to PPEs, our commitment to drugs, our commitment to the build-out of infrastructure. And those commitments came in June and July, and we were able to pay those bills to the tune of $4 billion.
He says that the majority of the funds were spent on drugs and personal protective equipment for health professionals. This, he says, cost approximately $1 billion.
The next high expenditure item is the amounts that we spent on accommodation, and that is primarily based on the return, the the controlled re-entry program that we undertook in April, May, June.
The ministry has spent approximately $728 million on the 4 regional health authorities. Mr. Brand says that the funds were geared towards facilitating contact tracing, financing activities at the health centers and hospitals, employing 121 doctors who were out of a job, and providing salaries for community health aides. The ministry now has a balance of $1.5 billion of the $5.9 billion it was allocated.
Youth be warned, jail ain't nice. It's the message from a prison inmate responding to a viral video which shows a group of children drinking alcohol and singing the lyrics of a dancehall song praising a life of crime. TV6's Nicholas Lutchman Singh has the details.
Small man, yeah, you are talking to, yes, you don't want to listen to your family, you don't want to listen to your mother, you don't want to listen to your parents, you need studying friends. You only study in the block, you only want to go and rob, you only want gun in your hand, you only want to smoke weed and play stupid. You only want to play fully dance. But you know what? I have a flick to get you.
Speaking from his 4x8 foot cell, the inmate goes on to show misguided youth the stark reality of the life they will end up living if they do not change direction.
This is your toilet, your everything here, right? When it is you come and they put you in the population, you're going in a cell with 8 men, 9 men, 10 men. You understand? You're sleeping on the ground, you're sleeping in hammock, and above the hammock, it have a next hammock where you're flying up there, and we call it the blimp. You understand? And it's up there, you're eating, you're everything. You want to pee, you have a bottle, you're peeing.
He pointed out the stark reality of prison life, and it's nothing pleasant.
You know what you have to do? Then you pull a gazette paper, spread a gazette paper, right? And go off on that paper, wrap it up, put it in a bag, tie it, and you go and you pelt it down the corridor because it ain't have no tub. You see like how this have a tub here? Well, I doesn't go off inside that at all because if I had to go off inside that and I had to open that to use that again, that is abominable.
The inmates stress that whatever glorification misguided youth are getting from leading a life of crime is only temporary. Nicholas Lutchman Singh, TV6 News.
I am Eddie Frederick. This has been Caribbean Perspective, a whole new approach to highlighting developments in the Caribbean. In the meantime, please continue to log on to CaribbeanPerspective.com for more daily news and more.